a little more than 8.5 years ago is sitting right there. And it took someone who cared about me enough to get me in front of the information. So I always want to tell people, like, someone cared about you enough to invite you here today. The first time I heard it, I needed, what rose up in me is every single person needs to know about this. So what you do with the information is up to you. But we're just so thrilled that this will be something that at least you'll have in your wheelhouse to know is an option for you or possibly for somebody that you know or love. So I am the mother of 5 young men now and grandmother of two very young men, one newborn, one newborn and one who's 2 years old, almost 3. I'm a Gigi, and that's my favorite thing to be, actually, is a Gigi. But 8.5 years ago, I was a very overextended mother. I was a very weary mother and a very frustrated mother. And my youngest sons, who are identical twins, were 10 at the time. I was executive director of a nonprofit, a ministry in downtown Kalamazoo, and that was a lot. That was a lot for me to handle with the size of my family. And of course, my family decided that we were going to open a franchise restaurant, which is a lot. That's a lot. And at the same time, we were bringing into our home and into our family our 5th son, who was 15 at the time. And he had been through cyclical, severe trauma. And that was a lot. And my youngest son, Gabe, who is an identical twin, he's now almost 20. But at the time he was 10 and in 5th grade, he was having a whole school year of being non-functional with inexplicable symptoms. And I'm pretty well studied and I'm pretty well versed, and I am a resourceful mother that wants to fix things. And so I looked at every option. I talked with the doctor, we went to specialists, we had diagnostics done, trial meds, a lot of things I wish I wouldn't have done when I look back now, but also tried everything holistically and natural that I thought I was well versed in. I thought I'd heard of everything, and every single person had an answer for me. And that was frustrating. That was a lot. I just wanted my son to be well, and everyone, I mean, if any of you have ever been there, you know what it's like when everybody's like, I know what you should try. I know what's going to make Gabe well. And I just didn't want to hear anymore because I'd heard it all and Gabe was not well. And Chanel several times reached out to me, and I kind of tried to blow her off, and her husband too, because I didn't want to hear it, and I was weary, and I thought, what have you got, Chanel? Like, in my mind, I was thinking, I didn't treat her like that, but in my mind, I was thinking, my inner dialogue was, what could you possibly have, Chanel, that I don't know about? Which is very pompous of me and quite egotistical, but sometimes we think that when we've looked into everything. And so in my skepticism, and in my overextendedness, and in my weariness, someone who cared about me enough to not give up, and honestly, she loves my kids, and I knew that, broke through a little bit. So if you're a little skeptical, you're not real thrilled about being here, man, I can relate, and I'm just so glad that you came anyway, because that's what I did. I listened anyway, a little bit to honor her because we have a very strong friendship, and I had nothing to lose. And she said a few things that really got my attention, and that's what I want to share with you. She said, Angie, the overseeing physician at Gull Arbor has recommended that I put every resident on this natural product. Well, Gull Arbor is a senior living home. It is basically like a nursing home, an end-of-life care, an adult foster care home. And Chanel has spent her whole life, I mean, she was raised by a grandmother and a mother who all owned senior living centers. So that's her life, is caring for the elderly and end of life. And she is one diligent, compassionate caregiver with people in that stage of life, and I already knew that. And she had said, so I researched it, and I did 8 months of research. That was shocking to me because if it's a natural product, where are you getting 8 months of research on a natural product? That usually doesn't exist. And she said, Angie, I've tried it on every resident, and I've had radical things happen. I've had people come out of hospice, I've had people come out of dementia, and I have people going off meds. So now, as a business expense, it pays more for me to pay for every single resident to utilize this. And I just talk to the families, they give permission, and if they give permission, then I pay for it because it's so much easier to staff my senior living center when people are more well, and they were becoming much more well. And this was 8.5 years ago, and her story is radical. If you want to catch her when we're done, basically, the stays of people 8.5 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago were just a few months. People were end of life, and now the average stay is.
They're still going, but 6 years.
6 years.
4 to 6 years right now.
And they're living strong.
And they're still going.
Yes, driving, I mean, moving home. It's really beautiful. It kind of looks like something out of a movie. So you may think right now, well, that just sounds too good to be true. And it does sound too good to be true. And I want you to be skeptical, because in our world today, there is so much to be skeptical about, and you honestly should be skeptical. And if we can't stand up to your skepticism, then by all means, you just laugh us off. But ask us the questions. Throw your skepticism at us, and we'll talk it out, because I've been that skeptical person. And I sat and listened to the information, and I saw people that I had been familiar with at her residence that were radically different. I saw someone who couldn't walk and talk when she entered because her dementia was so advanced have a conversation with me about her cute pajamas after she walked out to me. I mean, it was very, very wonderful to be there. And I said, you know, what the heck, I'll try it. So I have nothing to lose. I mean, it's not that expensive compared to everything we had done for my son up to that point. So we tried it, and very, very quickly, my son Gabe just kind of came back to life and went to school. He hadn't been to school in 10 months. And he went to the third to last day, second to last day, and the last day of 5th grade. And I just got my son back. And I gave it to our son, who, my only son that I didn't give birth to, because we didn't have medical rights to him to give him any kind of medication, but he was struggling severely. He had gone through severe neglect, so no sleep patterns, PTSD, suicidal tendencies, depression, anxiety, and I gave it to him because that was something I could offer him. And this amazing young man just kind of leveled out, and believe it or not, had like peace and joy. And I'll explain that too. And I gave it to myself because I thought, I don't want to give my kids something I'm not taking myself. So, and I started to see like perimenopausal issues just dwindle away. And it's pretty severe IBS that I've had my whole life. Within a few months, I just didn't have any struggle anymore. And that was kind of radical. And so I know that sounds a little bit like snake oil, because we had an autoimmune process starting in my son Gabe that we didn't know was that at the time. And that's a long story, but we won't have time for it today, but I'm happy to share. I'm very transparent with all the things that my family has struggled with. But if I told the stories of all my kids and all the things we've been through with this, we'd be here all night. But it stopped Gabe's autoimmune process. It leveled Deshaun's mind and heart and brought his body into balance, and it healed my gut. And in that moment, I know you would think, what in the world is going on? So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do. LifeVantage is a company that has pioneered and specializes in a science. I really want to teach you it, and Dr. Oscar and I are going to teach you about the science of nutrigenomics. We developed the science, and we kind of master the science. And nutrigenomics essentially is nutritional components. So they look like supplements, because supplements are nutritional components. So you're very familiar with supplements, I'm sure. Most people have a plethora in their cupboard. And where supplements give you what you're lacking, like magnesium or iron, we do something a little different. So we formulate nutritional components in such a way that they turn on pathways in your DNA that are off. You have a lot of dormant pathways in your DNA. And many of us blame our DNA for everything, right? We may say, I'm not gonna live long because none of my uncles live long, my dad didn't live long, I better have fun now. And some people say, I think I'm gonna have breast cancer because all the women in my family have breast cancer. And I hear it about depression, I hear it about alcoholism, I hear it about everything. Everybody's blaming their DNA. But let's talk a moment about your DNA, because I didn't used to know about it. So 2% of your DNA, 2, is coded, which means I am 5'9", I'm a large female, I have brown eyes. There's no amount of supplements, medication, fasting, or exercise that will ever make me 5'2" and petite. It's just not gonna happen. I'm coded. But 98% is influenceable. And you are influencing your DNA, whether you like it or not. So when you look at what we're doing, I don't want you to think, well, that sounds like hocus pocus. Well, if you use your cell phone, you're influencing your DNA. And if you had processed foods today, then you're influencing your DNA. If you had broccoli or turmeric, you're influencing your DNA. And if you exercise today, you're influencing your DNA. So we just kind of take a different approach to that influence. Knowing that only 20% of your DNA is active, and your DNA is just wonderfully complex and programmed. I mean, you are a master computer. More complex than like NASA's computer is your DNA. And so imagine just 20% of it moving and 80% sleeping. And the wonderful part of that is there are pathways in that 80% that are sleeping that are really, really special. And they have capabilities so strong for healing and repair in your body. And they just need to be turned on. So literally 60 years ago and counting, a team of scientists were looking at what's fundamentally common on all disease and aging. And really when you're studying, no matter what disease you're thinking of, and some of you may have names for diseases that are in your body, or unwellness, or diagnoses, whatever you want to call it. And whether it's the big ones like cancer and Alzheimer's, or MS, the scary ones, you don't want to hear that name, or ALS, or the small ones that we all just kind of consider are part of life, like perimenopause and anxiety and acne, the things that we live with and we think this is just what life feels like. When we say, man, it stinks to get old, everything hurts, I can't sleep. No matter whether it's that, whether it's eczema, whether it's diabetes, all of the names that you can think of, and we probably could think of several in here, like we're educated people. We all love people that have a lot of those unwellness processes going in their body. So no matter what it is, it's all rooted in the same exact dysfunctions in the cell. That was new to me 9 years ago. I didn't know that. But literally, I want you to look at this stool. And I want you to think of all of those names: cancer, Alzheimer's, MS, lupus, menopause, depression, even schizophrenia or ADHD, all of the things. I want those to be represented by the top of the stool, okay? And when we seek help in Western medicine, and I'm not saying that's bad, because sometimes we really need help in Western medicine, but Western medicine really focuses on this. And we make this really nice. We might paint flowers on it, we shine it up, we might cut a blemish out of it, we might graft something new in, but we are really, really focused on the unwellness. And this team of scientists 6 decades ago wanted to focus on those common dysfunctions in the cell that are supporting the unwellness, because this actually cannot exist without this. So they said, my gosh, if all the dysfunctions, if all the disease processes and aging as we know it are supported by the same dysfunctions, instead of focusing on this, what if we got rid of one of these? And I want to show you again. 5'9", tall woman. If I'm sitting on this and it's supported, it has these properties, it's strong, but as soon as you knock one leg off, which I'm not going to demonstrate, but I would fall over, right? Or if I had a glass of water on here, it would spill. It no longer has the properties of being able to be a stool or a tabletop or whatever we want to call it. And they wanted to focus on one of those legs, and through the years, we've been able to focus on more legs. So if you can imagine, how cool would it be to knock off 2 legs or 3 legs or 4 legs? That's the focus of LifeVantage, and that's our focus in nutrigenomics. Because what happens is we're able to turn on pathways in your DNA that are really turned on by a formulation of nutrition. And these pathways in your DNA start a process to get rid of a leg. So I want you to think, I know it's an activation, nutrigenomic activation is a totally different concept. Because I know even after you're done with this class, many of you will come up to me and say, now what are those supplements and what are the vitamins? And they're really activators. It's kind of a different language. So I want you to think of your DNA like my phone. My phone can do a lot of things that it's not doing right now. It has so many capabilities. In fact, if we spent time, you could all shout out a bunch of capabilities of what this can do for me. And some of you might even know something it can do that I don't know. Like, did you know your phone has a level? It does. And I would never have known that until someone showed me. And what if I didn't know it had a flashlight? And I could really start thinking about this like I think about my DNA. Because, like, again, 80% of your DNA is dormant. The majority of my phone is not doing anything right now. It doesn't mean it can't. And so if I thought about my phone like we tend to think about my DNA or our DNA, I might say something like, you know, I know your flashlight lights up, but mine doesn't, and my family's doesn't. It's just not meant to be. I'm gonna live without a flashlight in my phone. And someone who knows more might say, hey, Ange, you have the programming. Your phone is powered up, you have a light bulb, you just need to know what switch to flip. And so if you know where it is and you turn it on, all of a sudden it does what it was created to do. And the reason some of what we are gonna talk about is gonna sound too good to be true is because actually your body and the creation of you and your physiology, your biology is kind of that good. It's really good. And so these scientists found that if they formulated some plants, if they formulated some herbs in such a way, and they started in pharma, they started working with chemicals and synthetics, but they had more success with plants. So that's why it's more the nutritional way. And they left pharma, took their research to the University of Colorado in Denver, and they discovered this wonderful pathway in your DNA. This is kind of where it all started years ago, but we weren't a company. We were just a team of microbiologists and biochemists who were passionate about getting to the legs, because they thought, my gosh, if we can get to the legs, we're just kind of cutting right out from under the disease process and the aging process. And they found a synergy of very common herbs, many of you are supplementing them, synergized in a really special way. And I say that because there's 7 patents on that formula. So it's not like you can just toss them in your blender and somehow get the same result. But the way they formulate these herbs together turn on this pathway in your DNA called the Nrf2. And when it's turned on powerfully, and I say that because there's certain things like broccoli or turmeric that kind of tickle it, kind of nudge it. I might nudge the leg with broccoli, but it doesn't get rid of the leg. Like broccoli and turmeric and eating foods rich in antioxidants, because we all want to do that, can't do anything to lower what that leg is, which is called, we're going to call that first leg oxidative stress. It can't influence our oxidative stress levels enough to change our aging process or our disease process, preventatively or therapeutically. But your Nrf2 pathway, when it's powerfully turned on, which is what that synergy does, lowers your oxidative stress more than any food, drug, or supplement. They made this discovery at the University of Colorado in Denver. It was unbelievable. They did a study on humans. Be skeptical about this because I know how I would feel if I heard this, but 100% of the humans lowered their oxidative stress at least 40% in 30 days, 70% in 90 days. If you're not familiar with oxidative stress, we're going to draw you into that a little bit because you can't think of a disease process that there's not hundreds, if not thousands of studies showing that it's rooted in oxidative stress. It's supported in oxidative stress. That's why this is a big deal. So the world took notice. Wall Street Journal published, this was 20 years ago, Wall Street Journal published an article, a summary on that study. ABC Primetime came in and did an investigative report. And now we have 33 different renowned institutions who have all paid their own millions to study, maybe to even try to prove us wrong, even pharmaceutical companies who would probably make more money if they could prove us wrong, to really discover what it's capable of. So you can be skeptical because we can hand you like 33 studies that take a PhD to understand all of it. So I want to show you what happened when the ABC Primetime investigative reporter came in and had them test his blood. If you're around my age, you know ABC Primetime, when they would bust through the doors of an organization, it's usually to bust you. In fact, I think we're the only positive we are, aren't we? So every time they would bust through and do an investigative report, you're in trouble. Like your books are going to be exposed and naughty behavior is going to be shown. Well, I'm going to show you only 2 minutes, but if you haven't seen this whole thing, make sure whoever invited you here sends it to you. And let me see if I can, oh yeah, I don't even have to look at my computer. How about that?
Normally, oxidative stress, measured by those T-bars, increases with age. But in Dr. McCord's tests, taking just 1 pill of Protandim a day reversed that trend for everyone at every age. even for an 80-year-old.
They all are reduced to the level of oxidative stress that one would expect, frankly, in a newborn or a very young child.
Back to the oxidative stress levels of a child? It sounds too good to be true. Will Protandim work on me? But what about my progress? After nearly 2 weeks now, it's time to get my results. Dr. McCord calculates the numbers. The result? My level of oxidative stress has declined dramatically.
45%, that's excellent.
Just look at where I fall on the graph, before and after.
Which, if extrapolated back, is the level you would see in a newborn baby.
Have we turned back the clock? Well, maybe not on the outside, but deep inside within my cells. Yes, indeed.
Would you suggest I keep taking this supplement?
I would.
And so, ancient Eastern healing and modern Western medicine may soon be working together. High oxidative stress is associated with more than aging. It's been linked to hundreds of illnesses.
It's at the very center of many diseases. Liver disease, diabetes, emphysema, asthma. I've studied all of these. Strokes, heart attacks. Even mental disease. Yes. Depression. Alzheimer's disease, depression. But we do know that oxidative stress is part of those disease processes. And I don't want to wait until I'm 80 years old and find out that I should have taken it.
That gives you kind of an idea how I could be giving this to myself and two of my sons, and we all had very unrelated issues going on in our body, and yet each of us saw a dramatic change because each of us were able to eliminate a leg from under that tabletop of disease. So this is what it is. This is what we're talking about here. That's what the reporter took. It's called Protandim Nrf2. And it literally turns on your body's ability to make super antioxidants. So many people know I'm supposed to eat antioxidants. I'm supposed to have food rich in antioxidants. I have people all the time say to me, eat this, it's rich in antioxidants. And if I were to say, well, why? Why do I need that? Most people are like, I don't know, it's supposed to be good for you. Well, the reason is because oxidative stress. But external sources of antioxidants can't lower your oxidative stress enough to like heal my thumbnail. But your 37 to 50 trillion cells actually are filling with free radicals every single day, multiplying actually by 300 sextillion every day you're alive. So an 80-year-old has much more oxidative stress than a 60-year-old who has more than a 20-year-old. And that's why my son Gabe at 10, even though he had a disease process trying to manifest in his body, he responded very, very fast. And Deshaun, who was 15, responded very, very fast because their oxidative stress levels just haven't gotten to where ours are. But if every cell is filled with free radicals, which is what oxidative stress is, when you turn on your body's ability to make those super antioxidants, they're able to rid even just one of the antioxidants, and you make several. One of those antioxidants is so powerful that it eliminates 1 million free radicals per cell, per enzyme. You have several enzymes in every single one of your 30, let's just say like 40 trillion cells. Every enzyme eliminates 1 million free radicals every second. So while I've been talking to you, millions of free radicals are just eradicated because my body knows how to do it much better than trying to get it from an external source. So I mentioned to you that we see so many things that are unrelated. And it's so easy to think, okay, well, what if I have this problem? And what if I have this problem? And what if I have this problem? And we try to pull people back to, if it's made up of cells, we're gonna start getting the cell well. And so these are a list of just some now of the 33 peer-reviewed studies. We have organizations like Harvard. American Heart Association has never in their history funded a study for a natural product that's a proprietary blend, except ours. And our American Heart Association and Ohio State study, they teamed up with each other, is radical what it shows when you lower oxidative stress and utilize our specific product to lower oxidative stress. We have a study done by Louisiana State University that looked at the effects of Protandim Nrf2, specifically our product, on melanoma. Another one of my favorites is Washington State University studied Nrf2. And one aspect of their conclusion, they had a lot of them, that were kind of take your breath away. But one of the things they said was quite possibly the most preventative and therapeutic breakthrough in the history of medicine. And I'm gonna hand it over to Dr. Posada here in a moment, but I just wanted to tell you, when I sat in Chanel's home 8.5 years ago, and that Washington State University study was quoted to me, I thought, like, really? Like, the biggest breakthrough in the history of medicine? 8.5 years now I've been partnered with this company, and I have the privilege of seeing really wonderful things, helping people defy odds with their health, with their aging, even with their prevention. Just the prevention alone for my family, who used to be a revolving door of sickness, and we just almost never get sick now, is worth it. But I've seen such radical things with people who were given really, really bad odds, because remember, the big things and the middle things and the small things are all rooted in oxidative stress, that I stand on. I believe what Washington State University says. It really is quite possibly the most preventative, so think preventatively, and therapeutic breakthrough. So I'm gonna have Dr. Posada, because he's really dug in, come up and share more.
Awesome. So actually, I'm gonna.
Do you want me to switch the screen?
Yeah, I can do that. Well, maybe you can just maybe.
Unplug it?
Yeah, or just take a question while I do that or something.
Did anybody have a question while he's changing it up?
While I'm being IT guy. That's my backside, guys. This is like the worst thing you want to do. With a
I know.
That's so funny.
And then afterwards, I'm gonna plug it back in, so we'll just.
Oh, are we? Oh, sorry.
I'll try to give you a good angle.
I just moved it away from me. We should have a better option next time. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I was trying not to use my cheaters this whole time, and I cannot
Oh, bless
see
your
that.
heart. I wouldn't be able to.
I need to. I might need it.
And honestly, like at the end, we'll do Q&A as well. And there's never a dumb question, because we understand, like, we're introducing you to a whole different way of thinking. Activation through nutrition and nutrigenomics is a completely different way of thinking than you've been taught. And usually you've been taught to expect a prescription pad. And the progress with our company is they continued the science of nutrigenomics. And so we've activated other pathways that address other legs that are equally as foundational and as impactful as Nrf2. And so we'll talk about those too, but we don't really offer a prescription pad. We always say, gal, how many legs of the stool do you want to knock out? And what will you stick with? But we'll get there.
Awesome. Yay.
Yay.
Amazing. Can I use that stool?
Yes, oh, that's right. He even told me that you wanted to sit on the stool. And so.
Share, Angie.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, Dr. Oscar Posada, I really appreciate you guys all being here. Actually, this is really in line with our purpose in our office. Said plainly, our purpose is to help people, help families live healthier with less medicine. And this is right in line with that. This is my 20th year in practice. I started in 2005, and I have never really gotten into supplements. I always told our people how to eat. I gave classes on how to eat, what to do, what to buy. And I never really thought of myself as really getting behind a product, but this is the first one in 20 years that I cannot deny, because there's so many things that are behind it. And namely, one of the scientific advisory board members is this guy named Dr. Dan Murphy, and he was one of my professors at Palmer in Iowa when I went to school. And we all loved him because he would this guy reads 1,000-page technical books and then distills them down for the class, and he was amazing. He's since become this national speaker. He's amazing. So I actually see him at seminars. He speaks at seminars, and but anyways, he being on the board of scientific advisory for this company made me think, wow, I should look more into that. And just doing a simple PubMed search, and which is PubMed is the online library of the National Library of Medicine. It's the actual brick and mortar building is in Bethesda, Maryland, but online, it's got over 30 million articles and entries that are all scientifically peer-reviewed. And Protandim has in general, just has a lot. I think there's like 28 that I just did on, and every time you add an extra word, you get more and more and more studies about it. So that got me really interested, and now I'm at that point where I'm just experiencing the value of this in our own family. So that said, that's where we're coming from, that's where I'm coming from. I want to get into this a little bit more and just give you guys a little more of some of the science that actually moved me. But first I want to define some terms. We heard free radicals. I think you guys kind of get what the context of that is, but I like to describe these things as troublemakers. They're unstable, and they are all about stealing electrons, in this case it's an electron, from other stable molecules to make themselves happy. And so they're not good. So we don't want free radicals. Oxidation is when those free radicals get a little too wild, and they start doing that. They start taking from other electrons from other healthy, normal molecules. So oxidation equals damage. So I think you guys got that earlier from Angie's talk. But an antioxidant is the superhero in this study, in the story rather. The antioxidant swoops in to save the day by quelling the free radical, and then by doing this, they calm them down, they protect us, they protect ourselves, they protect our organs. Oxidative stress is when there's too many of these free radicals, too many of these troublemakers, and not enough superheroes, and then the party gets too wild. And then we all know when a party gets wild, the house gets trashed. And that's where this is when oxidative stress happens, things go to trash. So we don't want oxidative stress. So that said, let's move on. So where do they come from? I mean, I'm kind of taking you through my progression of thought, how I dug in deeper. There's this guy, I love this book, this guy named Russell Blaylock. This is an older book, I think it was in the 80s rather, it was written, but it's a super, super great book. And this is one of those books. This guy's a massively smart guy. He's written tons more books, but this one I like. This is from one of his books then. I'll read it to you. Our cells are producing destructive particles called free radicals that over a lifetime, these free radicals chip away at our cells, like water wearing away a stone, until cells are so weak that they begin to malfunction. And that process is called aging, and in extreme cases, it's called degenerative disease. Oxidation is a common everyday process, from rusting metal left out in weather to just our need to breathe. At the same time, oxygen is a powerful destroyer of life. We all know that if we don't breathe for a while, we're gonna quickly die. However, few of us are aware that the same life-giving oxygen is slowly killing us and making us sick. And the reason why is that oxygen gets transformed into a free radical when your body uses the air you breathe to make energy, and we all need energy. So this is, I thought that was great. This is another great book, the Better Brain book. Our office is core neuro. I'm all about the brain, so this is a really good book for just overcoming a lot of things through diet. But this is in one of the chapters. We live in a very toxic world. What makes toxins toxic is the fact that they rev up free radical production. This is a book about brain health, and they're referencing free radical production. Exposure to neurotoxins and all of that all speed up aging and speed up brain disease because it speeds up free radical production. And when that's there and oxidative stress happens, you get disease. And wherever that happens is where the disease usually where that oxidative stress takes the most toll, and that's where diseases can start taking root. This is actually an old thing too. Time magazine, this is 2010. I just went back, this is out of an old talk I gave, but it's relative here because the President's Cancer Panel back then made this alarming 240-page report highlighting the risk of cancer in our chemicals in our environment, and that's been seriously understated. We all kind of know that, but look at the first 5 things on the list. And it's some of them are easy and some of them are most are really hard to follow. But drinking filtered tap water, great. Store food in stainless steel or BPA or phthalate-free containers, awesome. Minimize our exposure to carcinogens and endocrine disrupting chemicals. That's kind of hard because they're everywhere. Choose fruits and vegetables grown without pesticides or chemical fertilizers. That's kind of hard. Choose range-free meat that has not been exposed to antibiotics or growth hormones. That's kind of hard. I feel like if you did all of those things, you would remove every restaurant in America and most grocery stores in America. So the takeaway here is, since we're all getting exposed to these environmental toxins every day, we need a strategy in place, and that's where this fills that void. The strategy is let's try to add something special, add an advantage to our lives instead of trying to just okay, I'm going to commit to never doing anything wrong, it's better to have something that gives you grace, something that gives you some margin that your body can offset this stuff from. So, the next slide is all about Time Magazine again, because this is also an old talk I gave, but inflammation. This is, I think, back in 2004. The secret killer, we used to understand that it was inflammation. We drew these conclusions and this link between inflammation and serious stuff like heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer. But today we understand that that type of inflammation that leads to that kind of disease is always paired with oxidative stress. It has to be. So inflammation can occur on its own, but it's usually the normal kind of inflammation. So if I roll my ankle, it gets inflamed. Okay, that's fine. If my body's responding to some invader and immune system inflammation happens, that's fine. But the type of chronic inflammation that leads to chronic disease is always accompanied by oxidative stress, which supports and intensifies the inflammation. You can't have one without the other. You can't have that kind of killer inflammation without having oxidative stress. This lady came in the office on Tuesday or Monday earlier in the week, and she asked me about food choices, and I just started talking to her about fat, and she was like, well, I thought you were gonna start talking about sugar because that's what I always hear. But fat is an important thing, and I don't want to get into this, but the issue though, the point I was making with her is let's add something to your diet. And instead of just making you quit everything you enjoy, let's add something good that gives you an offset. And that's what this is. If you take something that promotes the production of your own natural antioxidants, it gives you a leg up on a very hard battle to win otherwise. So how does the actual free radical damage you? It starts by damaging the cell wall. Now that's a picture of a cell, a human cell, and they have I kind of like the look of it because it's almost like its own little solar system. You got the nucleus there, you got all these things around. All these things floating around are called organelles. Just like our body has organs that make us live, they all do different functions. Your cell has all these little organelles that do functions for your cell. But it's the cell wall that gets destroyed by free radicals because these cell walls are fats and proteins, and they're rich in electrons. And so free radicals, the troublemakers, they want to steal. And what they do is they steal from this, but the bad news is your cell is the brain, your wall of your cell is the brain of your cell. In fact, that's what science calls it, the brain of the cell, because it makes crucial decisions for you. It's not a barrier that just keeps things in and out. It's a smart wall that actually lets specific things in or out. And if you blow it up, you can see that there's these little smart channels that are truly, you latch on a molecule there, it says open the gate and something goes through. This is how the cell stays healthy. So when cell membranes are damaged and dysfunctional, the person who owns those cells becomes dysfunctional. And so we don't want that. So we're trying to preserve them. One more thing I want to get to is this is really quickly, I want to show this to you.
Cell in your body is wrapped in a membrane that's made out of about half fat and half protein. If the fatty acids comprising your cell membrane are unnatural, that cell membrane cannot function in the way that it's supposed to function. And that's the beginning of disease. It starts at the cellular level.
So again, it starts at that level with the wall. So there are two types of superhero. We're going back to the antioxidants now. There's two types of superhero in this story. And you got to ask yourself, what kind of superhero do you want? Because think about Marvel Comics. You've got this guy, and he's a great hero, but what does he got? He has a bow and arrow. That's cool. He can jump, he can run, but he's not inherently magical or super strong. He's just really good at shooting a bow and arrow, and he's a really good guy to have around. So that's one type of hero. Or do you want a guy that's just gonna destroy and smash everything? So there's two types of superhero you can have, just like there's two types of antioxidant you can have. There are exogenous antioxidants. These come from your diet, and it's not bad to have them. We need them. Vitamin C, vitamin E, things you get from superfoods, fruits and vegetables. Delicious, awesome. They serve a purpose, but they go into your stomach, they go into your blood, and they just float. And they kind of just hope to bump into something that they can destroy. And it's a one and done. When they interact with something, they donate their electron, quells out, it shuts up that troublemaker free radical, and then he's kind of done until he might get charged again. Or you've got endogenous, made by your DNA, and these are super smart. They truly are enzymes that are proteins that have been programmed for one thing: smash. They go out and they smash. They find things. It's like a smart bomb. These are highly, highly more efficient than this. Now, I'm not saying never take, goji berries and all that. That's great. And you can have drinks and that stuff, and that's awesome. But it does one small thing, and you can rev up your own production of these, and that's a better strategy. So how this works is, and I don't want to get to this could get worse than this, but I'm going to go through a little bit of this. This is the product of how the free radical is made and what your body does to get rid of it. So first of all, the air you breathe, oxygen, is mixed with something called glucose, and that's how you make your energy. Energy is called ATP. And fortunately, 95% of the oxygen and glucose goes to energy. It's awesome. But even like the most efficient nuclear power plant has waste left over, and that waste is toxic, you also get 5%, according to Russell Blaylock, 5% that are free radicals. These are called reactive oxygen species, but they're free radicals. And they come down to a very particular free radical called superoxide, and that's the thing. That's the one we don't want, because it is the beginning of the end of you losing the battle. But you've got this endogenous, this is like the Hulk, this is the endogenous, made by your own cell, called superoxide dismutase. It breaks it down, it goes to water and hydrogen peroxide, and then 2 more of these endogenous ones break it down to very good for you, very inert, air and water. This is what we want. We don't want something that's just hoping to get the job done. We want something that's great. This guy, Joe McCord, he was one of the guys in the video you saw. This guy's a baller. He is really, really smart. He literally won something called the Elliott Crescent Medal for his discovery of this, of superoxide dismutase. This guy won a medal. This is the other notable winners. Marie and Pierre Curie, they are the ones that discovered X-ray. Nikola Tesla, and not the car, but the guy that actually did it, like Alexander Graham Bell, Henry Ford. These are the people he's rolling with. That's how smart this guy is. Joe McCord discovered the superoxide dismutase, and he is a pioneer for how we even understand this stuff. So he's amazing, and he also sat on the board of scientific advisory for the very company, the only one I've ever really endorsed. So that said, what is Protandim? We talked about it earlier. It's those 5 highly synergistic phytochemicals that upregulate this, and how that works. I won't get too far into it, but I will say that Protandim is categorized as an activator because it does a very specific job. So Nrf2 is something that floats in your cell. So I won't go back to the picture of a cell, but think about that picture you saw. Inside the cell, you got Nrf2 floating, and it's there already. It's already there, but it's being kind of contained and quieted by another protein called the KEAP1 protein. What Protandim, these 5 things do is they go in, they're readily accepted into the cell, and then they relieve that KEAP1 protein, and then now Nrf2 goes deeper into the cell, into the nucleus where all your DNA is. It binds to the genes that actually begin coding for proteins that get put together to be those antioxidants we want. So my point is, nothing else does that. And it's amazing that it can happen at all, but it's something that I'm excited to bring. So I just want to show one study because I'm nerdy like that. So just one and I'm done. I don't want to hold you guys here longer. This is an awesome study from Molecular Aspects of Medicine. Again, PubMed search. I read 100 different of these, and this one I liked because it says some cool stuff. We now see that oxidative stress is an imbalance that has its origins not in the food we eat, but in the genes. It's written right there in the abstract. Nrf2 is known as the master regulator of antioxidant response. It controls hundreds of genes, not just the usual antioxidant ones, but also those that manage immune function, inflammation, cancer, cognitive dysfunction, and even addictive behavior. It's crazy. Gene expression data on, I'll go to this. I'll read it and translate it real time. So gene expression data on vascular cells and cancer cells have been obtained in response to Protandim, and okay. So pathway analysis, when they made the analysis of what they found, it shows significant control. Modulation means control. Significant modulation by Protandim on all of those pathways. We're talking about over 200 diseases, over 1,000 different genetic pathways, all from one thing. It's amazing that it's even available. It sounds, again, you kept saying the whole thing, and it's true. It's pretty amazing. So my bit of this is done, but since all the research shows oxidative stress starts with genes and how they regulate, a smarter way to tackle oxidative stress and inflammation is to fend off disease is to take something that actually directly helps to make genes work better. And that's what I love about this. It's a smarter supplement than just a supplement. It's an activating agent of change. So that's my thing.
Cool. All right, can I switch?
Yeah, for sure.
And get,
Yeah, you're on.
let's see.
You gotta be here every week.
Thank you,
now.
Bryce. I'm gonna step out of the way. So,
You can see mud outside.
wow. How fun is it to hear, right? You know, I'm so good at the high level, but that is like, just, it draws you, yeah, it's a totally different level. Thank you for taking us deeper, because it's so, even, we don't have to understand everything he said, right? To know that that's jaw-dropping. And what really always solidifies my belief is when I see someone like Dr. Posada and the other, we attract a lot of medical professionals in our company who sometimes, and this is gonna sound melodramatic, but sometimes they're brought to tears with what they see. Because I think most people go into their medical career, their chiropractic career, to help people get to the heart of disease and unwellness and fix the problem, not manage the problem. Again, not paint the stool top, but get underneath it so that we can allow people's bodies to have such a great advantage that we shift that disease process, shift the aging process, or even better, prevent it altogether. So Dr. Posada and I are doing these classes regularly, and we're gonna try to focus and hone in on specific products, specific legs of the stool, because the science continued on with our company, because you have other genetic pathways that have really profound capabilities, just like the Nrf2, everything that he took you through, we have other pathways that do that. But I'm gonna focus on one of our new activators that we just released in October. And let me get you, that's a lot of our product line. So there's a lot of it. There's a lot of ways to activate your body, and each one better than the last one, or equally. But we just released a GLP-1 activator. And there we go. We just released a GLP-1 activator, and I'm gonna draw it in because what happens with our activators is that they start to synergize with each other, because even when Dr. Posada was talking about that energy and that ATP and how that draws a 95% of what you're giving it, you know, we have an activator that activates the manufacturing of ATP. I mean, it's just incredible with your mitochondria. And we start to see Nrf2 synergize with these different activators because your cell actually wants to work in tandem. It wants to cooperate with all of its parts. So we have a study that we've just released that is really based on the cooperation, the synergy between our Protandim Nrf2 and our new activator called Mind Body. And this is a 2-part activator. Protandim is 1 tablet, because a lot of times that's the question. People will say, well, what is this? Is it a capsule? Is it a drink? Is it a tablet? It's whatever it needs to be to activate. So a lot of our activators have different modalities. So there might be a capsule, there might be a tablet. Our Protandim Nrf2 is 1 tablet. Our Mind Body GLP-1 activation system is 2 capsules and a powder, and it's 2 parts that work together. And if you've heard GLP-1 before, it's probably been through a pharmaceutical commercial, because there are 17 pharmaceuticals right now that are kind of honing in on this term GLP-1. It's not the name of a pharmaceutical. It's actually the name of an essential protein that communicates between your gut and your brain. And it partners and cooperates with other hormones that are communicating between your gut and your brain. Not just GLP-1, but there's others like DPP-4, and there's hormones that leptin and ghrelin that all cooperate to tell you when you're hungry, and to tell you when you're full, and to ignite what you're craving and what fuel you need, and to drive your mind in the right directions to balance you for what you need nutritionally. And sometimes in our weight management journey, we can feel ashamed and lazy and wondering what we're doing wrong. Why can't I lose weight? I'm eating all those foods that Dr. Posada said. I'm exercising 5 days a week, and I feel like I'm starving myself, but I can't lose weight. And instead of maybe beating ourselves up, if we realize that most of us have an extreme hormonal imbalance in our world today, why? Because of processed foods, and the same reasons we have oxidative stress, actually. The exposures in this world, alcohol, sedentary lifestyle, actually excess weight, it's a catch-22, excess weight causes that imbalance, the imbalance causes excess weight, and then the cycle keeps going, and somehow it's gotta break. And people are stepping into medicine to try to lose weight that kind of dumps that hormone in. It just throws GLP-1 synthetic or bioidentical hormone into your body, which actually tells your body, let's stop making this hormone. We can become very deficient now. We don't have to work at receiving it. We don't have to work at it communicating with the other hormones, and we don't have to make this hormone anymore. So most of the people that are injecting the bioidentical hormone are very, very negatively deficient in their actual hormone that is essential for how you feel about your relationship with food. So how wonderful that we found a way to activate the pathways responsible, not only for manufacturing and regulating the GLP-1, but also regulating the other hormones in that gut-brain axis that need to play nice with it. And that doesn't happen with the medication because it's not activating a natural process of balance and regulation or making what you need. It's just dumping one thing. And it works in the sense that people lose weight for the most part really, really fast. But they also lose a lot of muscle because we really aren't supposed to lose weight that fast. And there's quite a few side effects. And so much so that a lot of insurance companies don't feel good covering it anymore. So we've been able to introduce a way to make your own and to start and ignite kind of like this manufacturing, this healing and regulation system. So it's really easy to think of it like a weight loss product because a lot of people lose weight on it. However, it's a health product. So our products are always addressing everything. Again, we kind of create things that are attached to everything. So when you're healing the cell and you're healing the processes and you're getting the systems to work together, you see an overall cooperation between all of these systems in your body. So not only are we seeing weight loss, but we're seeing blood sugar regulation and balancing. We're seeing a protection of your heart and your brain. It's neuroprotective to have balanced gut-brain axis hormones. It so literally protects you from neurodegeneration. Think of Alzheimer's. So think of the things we're seeing with all the dementia in the world when we can just bring balance back here. And a lot of people have been wondering, why are we seeing so much dementia in the last decade or two? Well, your gut-brain communication has a lot to do with it. It helps improve the health of your gut, your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas. It increases your circulation. And we see probably about a 27% drop in visceral fat. And your visceral fat is the stubborn fat that surrounds your organs. It's the fatty liver fat. It's the fat in the blood fat. It's the heart disease fat. It's the fat you don't want, that you can't get rid of by doing leg lifts. It's the dangerous fat. And to lower that 27% without losing any muscle. We're seeing people's BMI changing and muscle gaining. Some people take it, well, two wonderful people that I'm looking at right now, Bryce and Hannah, they didn't need to lose any weight. But they got on it, and well, Bryce, tell us what can you tell us what, do you mind? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah, so my metabolic age from when I first weighed in, I got in or started taking it in October, so right when they released it.
And you also take Nrf2.
And I also take Nrf2, also on collagen.
Everything.
We haven't activated, we have other activities,
Yeah,
we've done a lot of them.
A ton of them. But metabolic age went from 29 when I first weighed in to 16.
And you're 33.
And I'm 33.
And he's 33.
Yep. My muscle mass went from 78.5% to 83.4%. When I first weighed in, I was 173 pounds. Now I'm 164. What else? Visceral fat went from 7 to 2.
This is crazy. Isn't it crazy?
And
That's not like you have to say more. I mean, that's extremely wild.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we see. So some people who may not, you didn't think, oh, I'm so overweight and I need to, you didn't have unregulated blood sugars, but what a wonderful thing to get your body in balance. And we see people lose about a pound or 2 a week. And then we've seen people lose up to 25 pounds in 12 weeks. And there is a healing process that happens. So you'll see some people who's like, he seemed pretty thin to start with, but his body shifted kind of like braces, you know, like you can see muscle in different places. This is my colleague Shauna, and in 7 weeks, she's down 20 pounds. And we're seeing some people go down a lot of inches, but not necessarily pounds, which kind of shows you what a big deal your body mass is. So when we release a new product, and we have a lot of us that are on all the products like Bryce, and we start to see some really special things with health, some radical things, kind of some defying all the odds things, and it makes us study like what is happening. Why is there such a special effect? So we did a study, an in vitro study, which just means a cell study, on the synergy between the Nrf2 and our mind body. We call it the healthy weight stack. And here's what we found. You just heard everything that Dr. Posada said about antioxidants, Nrf2 pathway. When these two are taken together, there are 4 new antioxidant pathways turned on. 4 new ones, not the Nrf2, not the one present with Nrf2. And this one's not present if you take Mind Body, but when you take them together, it unlocks 4 new antioxidant manufacturing pathways. It unlocks 9 new fat and fatty acid pathways. 9 new pathways to balance metabolic health. That we're seeing like a crazy balance in metabolic health with each of these separately, but together you can see how the results are amplified. This one is what blows me away. My twins are type 1 diabetic, which is autoimmune disease, and they essentially have, pancreatic failure. They need insulin to live. And number 1 cause of kidney failure is type 1 diabetes. Losing your vision, losing your legs, heart disease. It's all amplified by type 1. So sometimes people will ask me, why do you give your kids the products if you know they're still gonna be on insulin? I want every other organ protected forever. I don't wanna get the call when they're 40 that their kidneys don't work anymore. So this is a really big deal to me. 22 new genetic pathways when you take these two together, and my boys do, that are proven to basically renovate the organs, like restore, rejuvenate, and renew those in all of your internal organs. 22 new pathways that normally weren't even doing anything. That is mind-blowing. So what that means, this whole 22 new pathways, which is such a big deal in my heart, it helps tissue cells remain structurally strong, like bricks and mortar, like your organs are made up of tissue cells. It helps them regenerate. So often I hear people who've been to their doctors and they, hear this or that, and they'll say, well, it's not like it can be regenerative. And we see different. We see regeneration. We have a study that shows it is regenerative and improving coordination, signaling, and impulses with tissue cells and nerves. The results that we've seen with people on Mind Body and Nrf2, the brain results, the heart results, the cholesterol levels, the blood sugar levels, people's labs, focus, thinking, it's been really, really incredible. So I couldn't help but bring up that study. I want you to know, first of all, we'll take any Q&A. Since I've been on Mind Body, I can tell you personally, I've seen more balance in my hormones. My sleep is off the chart better. And all of our activators have all amplified my sleep, but there's a whole new level with this. And my energy level is really high. I had an injury, sprained my ankle, and I used to be a professional dancer. I've sprained my ankle probably, I don't even know how many times. I've lost count, 7 maybe. And I just healed so fast. I've never healed so fast. It's only been a few weeks. Like I don't have a boot. I never had a limp. And it was a bad sprain. I mean, it snapped, puffed up, all the things. But the circulation that's increasing with that is phenomenal. And my stamina athletically and my recovery time is extreme. My body actually craves movement, and you start to see that mind connection with food. Your cravings go away, and you start to crave what fuels you in weird ways, in ways that you don't, in the ways that you wish you could, but you just don't have the willpower for. When you say, like, I wish I could give up sugar, but I just can't. And then I have clients coming to me and saying, it's like, I just can't even eat sugar. It just doesn't sound good anymore. And then it's their own body. Imagine your body being so balanced that it's driving you and pulling you towards the right behaviors. Instead of you saying, I wish I could be this disciplined. I wish I had the willpower. Instead it's like, I don't know what's happening, but I can't drink pop anymore. It just doesn't sound good. And that doesn't sound like me. I love pop. And so we're seeing a lot of that. I'll close off with this. One of my colleagues who's in her 60s, she has been through a lot in her health, and she hates exercise, and she'll tell her doctor, I'm not gonna exercise. It's been 25 years since she's exercised. She doesn't wanna do it. And she's on my body. And she also told me she hits snooze about 5 times in the morning. And she'll call me and she'll say, you're not gonna believe who's waking up at 4:30 in the morning, and her body is pulling her to move like I used to crave ice cream. And I'm like, you? She said, yes, I don't know what's happening. I'm finding all these beginner workout videos and I'm learning to stretch. And I'm like, look at you go. And it's when the body is balanced, it becomes easier. It's not about us giving you a regimen or a program. It's about you listening to your body, and you're letting your body heal and regulate, which it does with activation. So we are here to answer questions. There are several, Chanel and Hannah behind her here. We are here to answer any questions you may have. If you want to ask questions publicly, we do Q&A. If you want to grab one of us. If any of you are like, oh my gosh, I need to order this right now, we can also help you with that. Dr. Oscar as well. But it's really information we just think everyone should know about. I was upset the first time I heard about it. I wish I would have known about it when my dad passed 20 years ago. I wish I would have known about it months earlier when my child was not able to go to 5th grade for 10 months. And so we feel this obligation, at least now you know. Any questions?
I was just curious if you get the one product that you talked about, does it work with other supplements, or or like, say for instance, if you're taking calcium or vitamin C, do you just get rid of those? Is everything in that particular one? Or?
Yeah, a lot of times that's a really common question, and people will say, well, of all the supplements and vitamins I'm taking, does this replace any of them? And my question is usually, why are you taking it? And so if you're taking vitamin C for its antioxidant power, no, like vitamin C as an antioxidant can't actually hold a candle to your own Nrf2 production. If you're taking vitamin C for its other properties, then it is good for you. And if you need calcium, now it is really intriguing, because you're gonna be able to absorb everything better. Everything. Your food, your drugs, your supplements. And why I say that is because it's very common if someone says, I've had an iron deficiency and I'm trying to take all this iron and I'm still depleted in iron. And then they activate and it doesn't have iron in it, but their body is working so much better that it's able to process the nutrients that it's giving it, not even with the supplement, but with its food. So it just kind of, it depends on why you're taking it and what's causing the deficiency. I had a whole pantry full of supplements that I was taking to try to get my body to function because of IBS. And I always took it reactively. I'd be cramped up and I was in pain and I couldn't poop. And so I would just take those reactively. And after I had been activated on 2 of our activators, Nrf2 and another one, and this was the 8.5 years ago, I realized I hadn't reached for them in like months. And I mean, all of those, I could go like this on my shelf. There were so many of them, and I just didn't need any of them anymore because I was reactively taking them, thinking that they were helping. Obviously they weren't, and then I had solved the problem. So it's a little bit about why, but we do believe, we have some supporting supplements because we believe in the supplementation that is essential to even support the activation process. So everyone needs essential vitamins and minerals, and we have a product that does that. We're fans of vitamin D3 and taking it in a product that contains K2 and calcium and magnesium so that you can absorb it. We have that. We have an omega, we have gut health. We firmly believe you need a really good probiotic and prebiotic and postbiotic. So those things, if you have one that you love, we believe in those, and it is essential that you're getting those things. But sometimes, if I'll talk to someone and they say, I'm taking this for energy, I'm like, you probably don't need to take that anymore because you're going to do good, depending, especially on what products you have. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. No, you know what? It's funny because usually people will say, I learned so much during the Q&A. It
Or
really...
they have the same question that you want to ask, but they're too scared to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's often me.
Well, so I guess where I'm hung up, because now I've been on Nrf2 since May.
Yeah.
And so this is sort of a refresher for
Sure.
me coming.
Yeah.
And kind of trying to still struggle with, I guess, comprehension's not as strong. I have to
It's a lot to
hear
comprehend.
a lot before I
Yeah.
click.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess I'm still trying to grasp the whole concept of the nutrients, or whatever you want to call them, in the protein of Nrf2. That one. The ones that are in that. So
Yeah.
you're saying that just these specific amounts, little amounts of those
Yeah.
combined,
Yes.
create this.
Yes.
And otherwise, those nutrients, I'll call them, alone or with in other products, because
Yeah.
I've taken all of this before in other products. So
Absolutely.
in different amounts, in big amounts, because they come like
Yeah.
that. Way
Yeah.
more of something.
Yes.
When you buy it like separate, like way
Yeah.
more than your body.
Right.
Anyway, but that won't do what that does.
Correct.
Even if you took all of those
Yeah.
too, also, okay?
Yes.
See, so my brain's having trouble processing, like,
Yeah.
well, how can just these amounts
Right.
do all of that? Like,
Right.
how, that's where I still.
So I want you to think of, if I decided to give you eggs and flour and sugar and baking soda and some unsweetened chocolate chips, and I said, have at it, eat this. And you said, I don't want to eat flour. I'm not just going to sit here and eat these raw eggs. And I'm going to say, well, I'm going to now give you a Nestle Toll House cookie. It's all of those things. You mean to tell me that all of that the flour has to be that amount to get to that surprise? Yes, yeah. So it's a formulation like any med too. I mean, chemically, you can look at pharmaceuticals and say, they're formulated in combinations. And even, like when we were talking about just now, I mentioned D3. Vitamin D3 is an essential vitamin that you need, but you actually can't even absorb it unless it's partnered with K2 and magnesium. And so you can see how they start to come alongside each other and need each other. So in just the right amount for our bodies, it's, the formulator, Dr. Jim McCord, he'll even say, like, it was like a needle in the haystack that we formulated in just the right way to smack that on. And he'll even say, I don't know that I could even do it again. I mean, they've continued to be quite brilliant with their activation process, so I think he was being humble. But it's just the science of synergy and formulation. Similar to, when we were looking at Nrf2 and Nrf2, these two together. This by itself doesn't unlock those 22 pathways, and this by itself doesn't unlock those 22 pathways, but this amount of these two together unlock these 22 pathways. And so in the same sense, those ingredients do that. Any recipe would be similar, your banana bread recipe, same thing.
Yeah.
Or,
That makes sense.
yeah, think of it like a recipe. I had to wrap my mind around it because the herbs she's speaking of, you guys, it's for Nrf2, it's turmeric, ashwagandha, bacoba, milk thistle, and green tea extract. So it's not far-fetched for me to have people come up and say, I have all those. I supplement them, I throw them all in my smoothie. It doesn't do that. Similarly, you couldn't just throw all those ingredients in your blender and think a cookie's gonna magically appear if you threw all your ingredients for Nestle Toll House. There's a specific amount.
Is it like a homeopathic? Is that like each ingredient like at a homeopathic level?
I don't know what you
Minuscule
answer.
amount.
They're all micro doses, actually.
Yeah, so it's not
Yeah.
like homeopathic.
Yeah, it's all a micro dose,
Yeah.
but the way they're
That's how
synergized,
homeopathics work.
yeah. And the way they're synergized, they're literally 18 times more powerful than if you supplemented a full dose, meaning 1800% more potent than if you just had turmeric. So I will tell people when we have supplements, I'll say, let's just look at if you're supplementing any of the ingredients of any of the activators you're taking. A really common one is in our Nrf2. One of the ingredients is CoQ10. Well, a lot of people take CoQ10 supplements, but I'm like, you're not going to get close to the power that's in our Nrf1 synergy, even though it's a micro amount. But it is, yeah. So that probably adds a lot of color to it.
In general, too, I think I tend to find a lot of comfort in just like doing like the lit searches, like looking at like what the actual science says, what the PubMed database says. I mean, I just pulled up PubMed right there and just put Protandem, and there's things that are like number 4 in the list. Protandem protects oligodendrocytes, which is a brain cell, against oxidative insults, and that was 2016. Protandem, a fundamentally new approach to chem prevention using mouse 2-stage skin carcinogenesis in a model, and that's 2020. So I mean, there's like just a lot of like science that just, so I guess it's kind of like my faith is almost in the numbers. Like I don't really know how it works, but I know that enough people validated it that I don't need to have to like answer the question myself. Not that it's not, and it's a great question. That's not a bad question. It's just one of those things that I find a little comfort in, because I agree with you. I think very analytically as well. And which is why it took me a minute to like, I needed a certain tipping point before I was like, I need to look into this more, because there's too many people that I trust that are saying the same thing. And why don't I agree? Why don't I agree with them? I don't have the reason why I don't agree with them. So then when I started looking into it, then I got more.
Because I am a why person, like
Right.
everything, like
Yeah.
my family, I drive everybody crazy, I drive myself crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to know why,
For
like
sure.
you can't just tell me this, I need to know why.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what I've
yeah,
studied too.
Yeah, exactly.
I can relate, and I think too because they're common words. You know, those 5 ingredients that I listed, most of you have heard of every one of them. And if we had said a pharmaceutical list of ingredients, none of us have that at home. So we just, you know, like, we don't want to know the formula. We don't know how it works. Sure, what's in Tylenol? I don't know if any of you know, but some kind of synergy, and we won't even go there. But you know what I'm saying? But I think it's because, like, it's turmeric, and it's green tea, and it's ashwagandha, and those seem so common. How is it so magical, right? So I completely get that. And I think,
Makes sense. It
yeah,
helped me
good.
just talking about it.
Well, see, I'm so glad you
Yeah.
asked, because I think when we process this together, it helps us all understand more. And it is such a new science. I have people come sometimes over and over and over again. And Dr. Posada and I, the next time we do this is going to be February 16th. It'll have the same focus of mind, body, and Nrf2. And then our next 2 after that, we're going to focus on Nrf2 and how it synergizes with 2 other activators, not mind, body. It's something that we call our tri-synergizer. So we'll have different product focuses to kind of learn different things. And you're welcome to come back as much as you want. I have certain people who will sit through over and over and over again. And I'm listening to Dr. Posada today. I've been doing this for 8.5 years. Listening to everything you were saying, like, taught me so much and brings me deeper. Diane, you learn something every time, right? And you come on a regular basis. So it's just, it's out of the norm. So it is a new science that we're learning. And I'll answer 2 questions that normally get asked. A lot of people say, well, how do I start? What should I take? And I know we focused on 2 things right now, but each one of our things, each one of our activators addresses a leg on the table. It's a pretty big deal. And so starting with one thing is fantastic. I'm kind of an all-in person, and my family's had a lot of health trauma, so we started with as much as we could. And so that's great too. If you're a middle-of-the-road person, start somewhere in the middle, and we can always help you with that. But everything we have is going to be addressing your holistic health. And the best way to start is what you'll stick with. They're longevity products. So even your production of glutathione, which is one of those master antioxidants, when your Nrf2 is activated. By 3 months, when you're taking it, by 90 days, your glutathione production will be increased 300%. Not at 30 days, not at 45 days, 90 days. So you can see the cumulative effect. And so we tell people, start with what you'll stick with, because your body has a lot of ways to heal. And then the other question is, will I feel it? Will it target this? Will it target that? One of three things happens when people start getting activated. It's very normal if some people feel really good really fast. And if somebody tells us that, we're like, I see it all the time. And it's also really normal if somebody feels nothing, because a lot is happening in your body even right now that you don't feel. Otherwise, you'd never be surprised by labs. And I've had clients who I had one gal who never felt anything for 1 year. And then she called me, and you didn't feel anything for a year, but your blood pressure went down.
Yep.
And my client didn't feel anything for a year, and then she called me, and she had been borderline kidney failure, and she had normal kidney function. So that didn't feel like anything, but good was happening. And sometimes people detox a little. Well, you're always detoxing with it because you're cleaning out the cell, but some people's cells are storing a lot of gunk, and so some people have a little discomfort when they start. It's not making you sick, it's just trying to get the gunk out of your cells. And we just recommend drinking a lot of water, and we will always talk to you and help you through that. But all three of those things mean it is working. Okay, anybody else? All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming. We'll be back here on February 16th. If you want to get with any of us, I know when I first heard, I walked right up to Chanel and said, I need it right now. I need to get it for Gabe. So if any of you need help ordering, we are here for that as well. Or if you just have questions that you didn't want to say out loud.
Do you
But
have brochures or pamphlets on the one where I don't know what the name of it. Can you tell me?
on the Mind Body
No,
or the Nrf2?
Yeah, that one.
We have, do you have anything on
I
it?
have a takeaway that I just wrote up for the talk I gave.
Nice.
So